I was wondering if you could both just introduce yourselves really briefly. Just tell me name, what district you're running for.
So I'm Rebecca Keel, and I'm running for City Council for Richmond's 2nd District.
And I'm Montigue Magruder, and I'm running for Richmond City Council in the 5th District.
Okay, so I guess just to start off, you're both a little bit younger, and neither of you are necessarily into like career politics, so I was wondering sort of what drove you guys to hop into the selection and try and run for your respective districts.
Well, what bothered me was seeing City Council repeatedly take actions and votes that ignored the people we considered the least of us in society. So people that were in public housing, that lived in trailer parks, that took the bus every day, the minimum wage working folks, those people kept getting ignored out of the city's decision-making process. And I felt the need to be the person that stood up and spoke up for them, as I always have.
So I feel very similarly, and being 24 years old, I just got my master's in social work from VCU, and as a social worker in the city and someone who has been doing community organizing for a number of years, I saw that a root cause of a lot of the issues that Richmonders face is the city itself. So underfunding of basic services, the infrastructure, all that. Social services isn't funded properly, neither are the schools, and a lot of issues stem from not having services and not having a good education. So I just really thought that I couldn't do a good job of being a social worker actually, unless the city did right on its part. And me being 24 and running, I mean, I have nothing to lose, so I can afford to do things a lot differently, which is what the city needs.
Cool.
True indeed.
As we were talking about just a little while ago, both your guys' districts obviously are pretty heavily affected by the expansion of ECU, a number of sort of like redevelopment, quote unquote, projects in town. So I was wondering if you could just talk about sort of what you see going right or wrong in your district in regards to like expansion, I guess just changing neighborhoods, whether the city's actually providing the services you would expect for a district.
Yeah, so in terms of the 2nd District, a really big development that's happened is VCU putting down a bid to put up another squirrel stadium. And that's something that a lot of folks have been talking about for a number of years, really just the development on the boulevard. And without going too much into it, because it can be a very long discussion, VCU is not properly integrated into Richmond City. It claims to have built this town, really hasn't though. And the way it is preparing young folks to be actually part of a community, it's not sufficient. As well as just VCU is an educational institution, but Richmond Public Schools are some of the worst in the country. So for it to be expanding but not taking into consideration the youth that are around this and see the effects of the university, I think is disrespectful to Richmonders.
In terms of the 5th District, a lot of people see VCU, especially in the Oregon Hill area, they see VCU as encroaching on some of the historic resources of the neighborhood, on the authenticity of the neighborhood, on people's property rights, and it's like I think VCU needs to be humbled a bit in terms of dealing with Oregon Hill and dealing with the Randolph communities, so that VCU learns to respect the people of Randolph, respect the historic authenticity of the neighborhood, of the neighborhoods, and so that way it can integrate itself into the city without displacing the people in it.
Yeah.
Another issue that's come up with the 5th District is the Tredegar Green issue, which is also Oregon Hill specific, which a certain mayoral candidate tried to push through when he was on Venture Richmond, and
Jack Berry.
Well, yeah, and they tried to build an amphitheater in the Tredegar Green area that would have had speakers directly pointed at the people's houses in Oregon Hill, and a lot of people didn't like that. And then when they raised concerns about it to Jack Berry and Venture Richmond and all that, they kept on getting the runaround. Like there was no promises that they would, get any kind of respect from Richmond or the city itself. So it's those kind of things that that lead me to believe that certain development companies are not looking out for the fifth district's best interest. And I feel like I need to be the person that's best able to stand up for them and for their concerns. I don't think my opponents are willing to do the same.
One of the last things I was wondering about is you guys have both, neither of you is sort of, I guess, backed by some of the same amount of financing that some of the other candidates are. But I noticed you've been sort of pooling resources and sort of finding like clever ways to get around, like, I guess, like the funding discrepancies. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how that's been going and what you've been doing to like cope with that.
Yeah, so I love the creativity that comes out of being broke, and I've been doing grassroots community organizing since I was 18 with literally no budget. So I'm not a stranger to finding a bunch of cardboard in alleys and using markers that I have from home and from work and going into town with that. A lot of things have been handmade. A lot of things have been funded through artists and through musicians and through friends, and no donations have come through. Hey, we're just doing an interview, come on in. No donations have been from corporate entities or political parties, but I'm really thankful for that because I have an allegiance to the people, and it really shows in my funding streams.
Nice to meet you,
So being creative, being thoughtful about where my money is coming from, and then using it as wisely as possible, which is important for people who do budget.
Well, I would have to say that one of my issues with funding has stemmed from poverty, because of the fact that I do not make enough money. Because I did want to self-fund my campaign from the jump, but it turned out I actually needed to solicit some donations, and so I got fetched about maybe $200 total. But all of them have been from people that that actually believe in my campaign, regular, everyday, common folk that have been fighting for the betterment of everybody else since they've gotten involved in the politics. I have not like Rebecca. I have not received any money from any corporate entities. I have not received any money from any political parties, even though I have been endorsed by the Richmond Green Party. And so, I think that. I think about us, but me and Rebecca actually coming together, and we pulled more resources together wherever possible. We have been able to overcome that discrepancy through that. Like for example, some of the canvassing trainings we've had, we put our resources together so that the people that come out to canvass for us, they get paid, that make sure they have something to eat at the end, and all that good stuff. So it's like for what we don't have, for what we don't have in money, we make up for in other ways, and I feel like our campaigns are the true grassroots, people-powered campaigns that don't require a whole bunch of financing, like some of our opponents.
Which mirrors a lot of the way people in Richmond live, because a lot of people stay here and move here because it's inexpensive and it's easy to be creative and get by, and I think our campaigns are really reflecting that. And so it's like, who are you going to choose that actually represents you?
Okay, I know you guys have to go out and canvass soon. I guess that brings me to probably the last thing I want to talk about. I was wondering if you guys, just as young, relatively insurgent candidates in local politics, I was wondering if you guys see yourselves as part of a national trend at all, or if you think do you feel optimistic about the number of young people who are getting involved in local politics right now? And yeah, can you speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm actually really excited because I know a handful of younger folks, under 25-year-old people who are running for city council and school board positions across the country, specifically the East Coast. And these folks have come up in political education through the Black Lives Matter movement, and connecting that as a movement that is continuing to happen. This is one direction of it, getting folks into political positions who are socially conscious about the issues that truly affect Black folks and people that are living in a system of white supremacy and who aren't benefiting from that. So making those connections, and win or lose for myself, there are folks who are going to win their local elections who do come at it with this mindset and the grit.
Well, I am optimistic about the fact that we have so many people under 30 basically running for office, especially seeing that we have become the more educated than our elders. We are actually more aware of what's going on, and we're actually ready to put up a fight and change things for the betterment of all. And I feel like even like win, lose, whatever, I'm hoping that whoever wins, regardless, that the ideas that me and Rebecca have tried to put out for the people get adopted, and then they are put to reality.
Yeah.
Because if that is accomplished, then everything that I personally set out to do, for example, would have been accomplished. That's what I'm looking to do. Even if I lose, can I at least have my ideas picked up on by everybody else and made reality?
And then I guess, last of all, if you could just both very succinctly tell me where your polling places are in your district and sort of like the rough borders, just so I can have that in the video, because I know a lot of people just never know where they should vote in their neighborhood.
So the rough boundaries of the 2nd district are Jackson Ward, Carver, the Fan, the even number side of Floyd Avenue. The odd is in the 5th. So 1620 Floyd is in the 2nd district. Go all the way up to Boulevard, cuts halfway down Boulevard. So the side that does not have the VMFA is the 2nd district. Keep going up Boulevard, all of Scott's Addition. Keep going up Boulevard, Rosedale, and Sherwood Park over by the baseball stadium. And for your polling places, Google it.
In the 5th district, the 5th district consists of the Carolyn neighborhood, the Stadium neighborhood, Oregon Hill, Randolph. A small part of the Fan district. You go across the river. You got Woodland Heights. You got Swansboro West, and Northrop. I know in Swansboro, the polling place is at Swansboro Elementary School. For Swansboro West is at George Wythe High School. I am unsure about the other polling places in the district, so yes, please take some time to Google your polling place, find out where you gotta go. Or if you have your voter registration card already, check that. It should be accurate, and it should tell you exactly where you gotta go to cast your vote.
Or you can go to City Hall, and you can vote early anytime between now and the election.
Cool. Well, thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate it. Good luck.
Shizzle.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hi, friends.